Hi, everyone, and welcome. So dumb. Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope everybody is doing well and is doing healthily good. I'm a little bit late because I just had to spend time with my 11 wives. As everybody knows, I have the sexual strength of 30 men. For those who have no idea where this just came from, it is about Muhammad, about Islam. Anyway, how is everybody doing? I hope everybody is doing very well and is having a fantastic day or night or whatever it is that you seem to have. When I scheduled this live stream, I didn't realize that at the same time here, there's supposed to be a debate between David and Aaron Ra ongoing on modern day debate. And I thought, hey, this is not a good time to have a debate. But then I thought, no, it's actually a perfect time to do a debate. So I can just, at least contribute to taking away some of the audience, although not much of it. So I'm doing this on purpose just to hurt modern day debate and to hurt David right now. So anyway, today I want to review a few things that Yasser Qadi said, and it's going to be just me here. So all those who don't want to listen to the boring speech of David Wood, this is the perfect live stream. Welcome, and we're going to have a fantastic time together. We're going to have a fantastic live stream together. What is happening right now is that there is a war going on between Israel and Hamas. And while there is a war going on between Israel and Hamas, there is a lot of there are protests everywhere. Everyone is giving his opinion on the matter. There are anti-Israel protests, ceasefire protests, anti-Jew protests. Kill the Jews protests under the guise of anti-war and anti-Israel, pro-genocide protests, anti-genocide protests. Everything is going very, very wild right now. But the issue is, on October 7th, when Hamas committed an attack on Israel against civilians and caused the deaths of 1,400 people so far, a lot of people in the pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas camp came out and began to celebrate. They were celebrating. They were celebrating the Palestinian struggle, the resistance, the fight for peace and freedom and all of that. And they made excuses for the killing of civilians. It was predicted by many of us that as soon as Israel responds to the attacks, they will start playing the victim card. And it happened exactly as we predicted it. And it wasn't very hard to predict, to be very honest. Everyone can be a prophet about that. But one specific person is the respected American Islamic scholar Yasser Qadi that I want to talk about today. Because I heard a speech from him earlier, and I thought, wow, this is such hypocrisy. Such hypocrisy. It is funny. So let me share my screen here, and let's jump immediately into this. And what's also very interesting about this is that in his speech, he's basically implicitly, maybe without thinking it through, justifying or basically explaining or downplaying the Israeli response, the Israeli airstrikes on Gaza that we are seeing right now. All right. Let's see. I don't know why Cartoon Slug says today we're going to talk about Andrew Tate. I don't care about Andrew Tate right now. I cared a lot about Andrew Tate several weeks ago, but right now I couldn't care less about Andrew Tate. He's probably going to go to prison. And once we hear that, I'll celebrate. But right now, I think I've said enough about him. And that's good. Darlene Nemo said, made a super sticker, which looks very cool. Thank you. And Theo Wolfie said, AP, have you heard of Sitch and Adam? I told them about Islam and their eyes were really strapped with leather in the beauty of Islam. Yes, I have. I have. And good. Well done. Lucid said, please help me, AP. I'm scared of the garga tree. Don't be scared. Just plant it. Plant it in your backyard. It will protect you when the Muslims come. That's what it says in the hadiths. All right. Let's see what this guy has to say, right? Let's see what this guy has. I have a sound from him on my soundboard, I believe. Let's see.
What the hell? I mean...
Good. Okay, let's go. Memory TV clipped his clip. Okay, clipped his video. 3 minutes. I'm going to look at this one first, and then in order to further understand the context, because as far as I heard, he complains about the context. In order to further look at the context, I will go to his longer video from which this is taken. I listened to it very briefly while I was busy doing other things. I will go through. Texas Imam Sheikh Dr. Yasser Qadi, October 13th. Okay, let's.
The entire narrative is constantly framed as a specific condemnation of one group and the tactics of one group and the recent events that one group has done. If you want me to condemn one tactic, are you willing to condemn 80 years of thousands of tactics? The targeting of innocents during times of war, during times of conflict. This is a brutal reality that happens across the globe. And the very people, the very organizations, the very countries that are pointing fingers.
So this is October 13th, right? This is a few days after October 7th when Hamas attacked and brutally killed civilians. And he is basically responding to people saying, do you condemn it? And he is then explaining that the targeting of civilians is a brutal reality of war, and we just have to deal with it. He doesn't condemn it. Throughout the speech, he doesn't condemn it.
Are themselves guilty of far greater crimes in this exact same genre. Once again, I have to be super careful. Every word I say will be taken by Fox News and by Memory and other.
This is funny. He says will be taken by Memory. This is on Memory. Memory did actually indeed take it, but they didn't very much take it out of context.
And misquoted. So I must be careful. War is brutal, and sometimes things happen in war that nobody wants to happen. Our own country of America, which of course claims to follow international law and usually says we should not kill innocent civilians. United Kingdom, that is also signed on to these international treaties. During World War II, they had to intentionally begin bombing civilian populations.
And they had to. They had to. Remember this. They had to bomb civilian populations. And this is true. He's correct there. The United Nations, the UK, and other nations, the Allied forces during the Second World War, when they were fighting Nazi Germany, Hitler's Germany, and Japan, they did have to eventually resort to bombing entire cities. And one very big example of that is the city of Dresden in Germany, Dresden in German, which was bombed in the most brutal ways and basically burned down to ashes. And the Allies did that. And there were lots of civilians died. And this was seen as a measure that had to be taken in order to bring Germany to its knees and to make them give up. Unfortunately, what they didn't really consider is that the people who were in charge of Germany didn't really care much about the civilian population, so it didn't mean much to them, and they didn't give up. And I have to say, although we will come to that in a little bit, that when Israel bombs Gaza, we are unfortunately also dealing with a leadership, Hamas, that doesn't care much about its own civilian population. So bombing all of them away will not do anything. Hamas is proud of it. Hamas is proud of sacrificing their entire population. And for those who don't believe it, I made a live stream a few days ago in which I showed a video of them saying that.
England and America began the intentional, direct, targeted killing of mass civilian populations in Germany. The cities of Cologne, of Hamburg, of Dresden were entirely decimated. Wars, sometimes the retaliation occurs that is beyond the laws of the land. How did World War II come to an end? We all know this reality. Our country, with our tax-paying dollars, used the largest and the most...
You weren't there. Wait, you weren't even there.
Most effective and destructive weapons known to mankind, the atomic bomb, and intentionally targeted not the forces of the Germans, not the forces of the Japanese. They intentionally targeted 2 civilian cities, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But there's another war, a war of the minds, a war of the media.
This is a very interesting thing, right? So he doesn't condemn that. He explains that as a necessity. And that is also the main narrative, generally, that the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a necessity in order to put an end to the war. And it worked. America said, repeatedly told Japan to surrender, to stop. Japan didn't listen. So they then dropped flyers over Japan saying that a destruction like no other is about to come. And the Japanese leaders are expected to surrender if they want to prevent this, and they didn't. And the bombs were dropped. And as soon as the bombs were dropped, Japan surrendered. So he sees no problem with this. He thinks that this is a brutal reality of war, right? What does it tell you about what Israel is doing to Gaza right now in response to violations coming from Hamas again and again? And yes, Rocco pointed out, we told them to evacuate the cities, by the way. In both cases, warnings for evacuations were issued. During the atomic bombings and today, when the IDF is bombing Gaza. And I'll show you those in a little bit.
A war of perception. Memory, which is the Joseph Goebbels of our times, will take this 10-second clip and twist it and say, I'm calling for war. So that I say clearly and unequivocally, the war that I'm calling for.
He just called memory the Joseph Goebbels of our times.
Is not a Sharia-based influence. This is not radical jihad. What I'm calling for is for us to stand up and be quintessentially American, be a part of the democratic process, be a part of campaigning, be a part of media influencing. Auschwitz and Dachau. I have visited the death camps. I have heard directly from Jewish survivors of the Holocaust. I have seen a person take his hand and show me the tattoo that the Nazis have done. There's a picture of that in the New York Times. And I see what hate can do. But I say loudly and clearly to my Jewish brethren, you cannot invoke the memory of a Holocaust to inflict another potential Holocaust on innocent victims.
This is just so slimy and sleazy. Yasser Qadi is the very same person who does believe in the prophecy and policy openly declared by Palestinian organizations for decades that the Muslims will eventually kill the Jews and eradicate them. Which is why he also believes that the Jews are these eternal enemies, right? That they are deceivers, that they invoked Allah's wrath. He believes in establishing an Islamic state and forcing others to live by their standards and to become lesser people. he believes in killing, in executing apostates like me and others just because we leave Islam, just because we change our beliefs. And then he is here really grandstanding and trying to act like this is just about, he's against hate and the Jewish brethren must stop hate and stuff like that. It's so hypocritical. So hypocritical. But hey, since he complained about the context, I want to start watching his video from where I think it is relevant. And I will speed this up a little bit. And I only want to watch a small part of it, which I looked at earlier, to see all the other things he has to say in order to then analyze his rhetoric here, to fact check him, and to call out his hypocrisy. And maybe he is right. Maybe somewhere I will say, you know what? He has a point. Let's see.
Matter is that Palestinian blood, Muslim blood, Arab blood does not carry the same weight as that of other people. And hence, there is the blatant dehumanization of an entire category of humanity. Sisters and brothers, my khutbah today is a direct call for action from every single person, not just here, but around.
Hold on, I want to go back and see if there was any substance to that earlier.
Big condemnation of one group and the tactics of one group and the recent events that one group has done. Go listen to every interview. Go look at every press release. Go look at what our own president has said. It always hones in on the tactics of one group. We condemn this. Do you condemn that? Very well. That is a fair question to ask. But we have to ask in return, why is it that we have never once heard in over 80 plus years? Why is it that this deafening silence that we notice? Why is it that what is blatantly absent from every press release, from every interviewer, is the condemnation of war crimes against innocent Palestinian civilians? Where is the condemnation of the inhumane treatment, of the barbaric realities, of the blockages of the humanitarian efforts to over 2 million people? If you want me to condemn one tactic, are you willing to condemn 80 years of thousands of tactics?
Pretty sure that there are lots of condemnations. I mean, look at the world right now. But it's so interesting, of course, that he will immediately deflect any question about the tactics of Hamas. He will immediately deflect from it by bringing up, Israeli practices, the Israeli occupation, the Israeli apartheid, and this and that, and thereby reference, organizations which say that there is an occupation and that there is apartheid, even though the same organizations say some really bad things about some of the countries that he defends, and he doesn't care about that at all. But why can't he just come out and say what Hamas did, that's not the way? Why can't he just do that? He won't condemn it. He won't reject it. Why does it have to always look like they are the victims and they can do whatever they want and everything is justified because Israel is the oppressor? Really? Is that how we should understand? Should we go into the Muslim world now and look at every kind of oppression and then say, hey, you know what? These countries are not treating their citizens fairly, are not treating their populations fairly, so everything we do against them is therefore justified. Should I say, Muslims do not treat us fairly, we are constantly intimidated, therefore everything we do against them is justified? Should there be no standards to be held to and to be accountable for? Just because you can use this card, this victim card, and say, hey, I'm oppressed, don't ask me, ask the other side. And we know very well that Israel offered the other side, the Palestinian side, the chance many, many times to make peace, to find independence, to do something, to go a different path. But no, the Palestinian side has always stuck to one idea, which is we don't want Israel. We want all our rights, which we had before Israel was established. We don't recognize Israel. We want more and more concessions. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way.
This reality brings into the sharp contrast the difference between the race, religion, and ethnicity of the victims. Not all human beings are treated as equal according to the eyes of the world that we live in. Not all blood is the same according to our own presidents and our own countries. No. The fact of the matter is that Palestinian blood.
Why does Yasser Qadhi say this? Islamists and himself do not view all humans as equal. They don't view all blood as equal. I know this is a fact. I mean, Yasser Qadhi can make this accusation about Israel and the West, and can can imply or can accuse them of being unequal. But we know for a fact that Yasser Qadhi himself doesn't believe in equality. He is against equality. This is a fact, not an accusation. He makes only accusations. We know for a fact that this is true. By the way, Curtis said, Nagasaki and Hiroshima aren't exactly only civilian populations. They were the centers of military industrial factories. They did have military value as targets. Thank you for that addition. Yeah, that's something that needs to be added. I thought earlier of going further into the claims on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, but then I thought, hey, it's not really. I appreciate that you add the context here. I want to focus on another issue, but this is very valuable. Thank you.
Muslim blood, Arab blood, does not carry the same weight as that of other people. And hence, there is the blatant dehumanization of an entire category of humanity. Sisters and brothers,
is there really? We'll see.
Khutbah today is a direct call for action from every single person, not just here, but around the globe who hears my speech. I'm not going to go over the history of the issue. I've done that, and many have done that before. I'm not going to talk about the sanctity and blessings of Palestine, very easily available. I will not list in detail the inhumane conditions of the people of Gaza for the last 80 years. That too, Google it away and click it away. Very simple. Rather, what I want today is to ask all of you, without exception, to become active and to do everything in your power, with wisdom, with tact, to educate people around you about the reality of the situation. This is the very least that we can do.
Yes, I agree. We should all come together and educate those around us who don't know about the reality of the situation. Unfortunately, that doesn't work by just telling people, free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine, Palestine is being oppressed, Palestinians are being oppressed. If you want to really go to the reality, you should start from the very beginning. One thing that people don't ever want to talk about when they defend or when they accuse Israel, which is that the conflict was started, or the violence in the conflict was started by the Arab side in the 1920s. In the 1930s, the Great Uprising was from the Arab side. Violence was started then. The first Israeli or the first Zionist militant groups were founded in response to Arab violence. 1947, the Civil War was started by the Arab side because they didn't want to accept a partitioned Palestinian. They didn't want to accept a partitioned land. They didn't want to accept Israel. They wanted all of the land to belong to them. 1948, the war was started by the Arab side. Ever since, the entire violence was started by the Arab side. When Israel made repeated attempts to make peace and to find some ground to have, to have a two-state solution on. That's the truth. That's the reality.
Every one of us, this is a call to action, to stand up, to learn yourself, and then to preach the truth to others. We must change the narrative. We must change the entire vision of what is happening in that land. And the only way that is going to happen is at the grassroots level, at the ground level. When you and I talk to our neighbors, our colleagues, our friends, when we get involved on social media, when we change one person at a time, when we eliminate ignorance from one person at a time, today is a blatant call for action. Today is the day that every one of us is going to get involved and try our best in the long run.
Okay, bro. Okay, calm down.
Come unbelievably, corporations and universities in this country are blatantly getting involved in politics. What business does a corporation have releasing a statement? Why should a university get involved and take sides in a political matter?
That's fine that they will only say this stuff if these organizations come out against what they believe in. They won't do the same thing if they support the Islamist point of view or the Palestine point of view.
Media personalities, Hollywood stars are up whatever they might follow with that. And I have to stand here bluntly and say, we don't have to support a particular political party of Palestine. We don't have to defend a particular tactic. when we want to defend the human rights of 2 million people of Gaza. This is what is called a red herring. This is what is called trying to change the subject. I am not here to talk about the tactics of one group. I'm not here to justify or not one specific action. I am here to talk about the plight of 2 million people.
He has to go into this whole speech immediately after Hamas committed a major attack that included the killing of mostly civilians. And he says we don't have to get into that. We don't have to get into the tactics and what they did. I'm sorry, that is what we dealt with. That is what we were dealing with on October 7th. That is what started this entire war here that we are currently in. How can you say we don't have to say anything about it? And I'll show you. Did he spend any time at all condemning what Hamas did? Did he spend any time at all saying that we shouldn't be doing this? Let's see. What did he do on Twitter? He tweeted something on October 2nd. Then nothing. His first response to the issue was on October 8th. And that was a response to Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson on October 7th tweeted, enough is enough, give him hell, Netanyahu, or something like that. He then responded to that by condemning Jordan Peterson. He didn't condemn the actions of Hamas. Then October 11th, he went into the history. Then later, he published the speech that we're watching right now. He didn't say for a single time anything about the October 7th attacks, which were a direct attack that targeted civilians and brutally killed them. The attacks on October 7th were not an attack on Israeli armies, on Israeli politicians, on Israeli forces. They were an attack on civilians, specifically on civilians, on villages, on people. And most of these people celebrated it or were quiet about it. They only began responding and crying once the response from Israel came. This is the only thing he published after the attack.
How can one ignore 80 years of oppression? How can one ignore 80 years of colonization? How can one ignore 80 years of direct taking over of the lands and the peoples? How come nobody looks at them? Nobody sees their stories. Nobody sees that Gaza is the largest open-air prison in the world. Do you know who said this?
You know what? And when they say 80 years of oppression, 80 years of occupation, that's a lie. What are you talking about? What 80 years? 1948 is when Israel was established. And when the Arab side, the Arab population that lived there, didn't want to accept the existence of Israel, which is why they came together with the surrounding Arab states and declared war on Israel. And then the Arab civilians, together with 5 Arab states, fought Israel, lost the war, after which Israel occupied more of the territory than was initially given to them in the partition plan. And Egypt took a part, Gaza, and Jordan took a part, the West Bank. And they had that for quite a long time, until the next war. So what is he talking about? It was only in 1967 that Israel expanded further and eventually occupied the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, which they also, not very much later, tried to give to Egypt and Jordan, but they didn't want it anymore. So it was Israel itself that turned those into self-governing regions and then worked toward a peace solution. What 80 years are you talking about? What 80 years? Tell me. What occupation? Of course, what they mean by this, what Yasser Qadi means by this, is that any existence of Israel is an occupation. That's what he means. That's why he says that. This is what they do. He doesn't see as legitimate any existence of Israel, of a Zionist state, of a Jewish state, in what they consider the region of Palestine. Any Israel to them is an occupation, which is why they will continue with this narrative and continue saying that Israel has been occupying the land for 80 years now. That's what they're doing here. And then they really want to talk about peace?
Our own President Jimmy Carter of America. Jimmy Carter visited that land and said this is the largest open air prison that he has ever seen. Millions of people cramped in a small area, completely controlled by the surrounding territories. How come nobody sees the conditions they're living in, the refugee camps and the squalor that is happening for millions of people? So, subhanAllah, this person.
And when did Jimmy Carter say that? When was that exactly? I actually don't know. When was that? Because he was president a very long time ago. A very, very long time ago. But when exactly did he say that? Because I guess he said that. Let me see if I can find it. He must have said that during his time, or okay, no, he said that much later. Much later, when he was much older. He said that probably after Gaza became after Israel disengaged from Gaza and then left the governance of it to the Palestinian population. So he said that somewhere between 2006 and 2009. Yes, I think I see it here now. It looks like it looks like he said that between 2006 and 2009. And you know what happened there? For those who have followed the history, you know what happened there. What happened is in 2006 or 2005 to 2006, Israel disengaged, removed all the settlements, and then left Gaza to the Palestinians to find, to self-govern and to work toward a peaceful solution. And what happened? Gaza elected Hamas. Hamas took over, refused to share power with the other Palestinian organizations, made a coup and turned Gaza into a terrorist base from which it was supposed to be a complete attack and a constant war on Israel. And Hamas made it very clear that they have no interest at all in recognizing Israel, and they have no interest in disavowing terrorism, and they have no interest in recognizing any peace process. That's what happened. That's when he said these things, because that's when Israel said, okay, you know what, under these circumstances, we will put the blockade in place and we will not lift it until Hamas is removed or until we can come to a proper solution here or to a proper peace process here. Until then, we have no interest in letting our enemy thrive here who wants to exterminate us. And you know what? I think that was a fantastic decision. It was a great decision. Actually, I don't know if it was a great decision because it's probably very much a burden on Israel. Maybe they could have done something differently there to make them even weaker. But why in the world would you blame Israel for that? It's ridiculous.
Territories. How come nobody sees the conditions they're living in, the refugee camps and the squalor that is happening for millions of people? So, subhanAllah, this person, all I can say back to him, as Allah says in the Quran, قُلْ مُوتُوا بِغَيْظِكُمْ, perish in your rage. His fate and the fate of all of those who support apartheid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of them.
So he says to Jordan Peterson, after Jordan Peterson became very angry and emotional in response to the Hamas attacks on Israel on October 7th, Jordan Peterson said, enough is enough, give him hell, Netanyahu. He says in response to that, die in your rage, perish in your rage, as the Quran says. Okay. Apparently that's how we are supposed to react. We are supposed to condemn those who get very angry and say, give him hell, because a lot of innocent civilians are killed.
People who have been deprived of basic humanity for 80 plus years. What about them? Fine, you want us to condemn? We will condemn whatever you want, with the condition you be just and fair, and you condemn with the same anger you want us to condemn. You condemn what is happening for 80 plus years. Brothers and sisters, next time you are asked, do you condemn this or do you agree with this? Take a step back. Learn from the Quran and Sunnah.
Yeah, so the standard here is when somebody asks you, do you condemn Hamas going into a festival and killing 270 people who have nothing to do with the war, and then capturing others, going through homes and burning them down and so on? when they ask you, do you condemn that? You should ask them, do you then condemn Israel's 80-year history, which mostly consists of fighting back? Yeah, no. But if you don't condemn the Hamas attacks, then that just says a lot about you. And it just explains why we can't find peace here.
Learn from the Quran and even from the Old Testament. These are the tried and tested tactics of people before. Do you know one story in the Quran that this reminds me of? Fir'aun, the Pharaoh. The Old Testament tells us.
Yeah, he is going along into the Quran Pharaoh story. Then there was something around 11.
You have to mention this one mistake of mine in light of right history. This is what the Quran teaches us. We flip the narrative. We change the script. Even if some of you feel we need to condemn a tactic, that is on you. Me personally, I will not apologize.
I also flip the narrative here. Yasser Qadhi, as somebody who just complained so much about apartheid, do you think it is evil to establish an Islamic state where people are executed based on their ideas and based on the fact that they no longer want to believe in Islam? Do you condemn that or not? Since we are supposed to condemn this supposed apartheid that he keeps talking about, I wonder if Yasser Qadhi wants to condemn that. Because I'm pretty sure he won't condemn it. He will justify it.
And I will not have anything to say about what subjugated people do. But if somebody feels that they need to do that, as long as you move on to the bigger picture and you say, okay, how about what is happening there for 80 years? The Seerah teaches us a similar incident. When the Muslims...
Okay, he basically here said that he has no interest in condemning Hamas because he doesn't really care about the methods of these oppressed people. Look.
Feels that they need to... And if some of you feel we need to, Quran teaches us, we flip the narrative, we change the script. Even if some of you feel we need to condemn a tactic, that is on you. Me personally, I will not apologize and I will not have anything to say about what subjugated people do. But if somebody feels that they need to do that, as long as you move on to the bigger picture and you say, okay, how about what is happening there for 80 years?
So he will not condemn it. That's what he's saying. He will not condemn it. He has a very clear chance here. It's very easy to say, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's very easy to say. He can just say, okay, you know what? I will condemn it. I condemn it. I don't agree with it at all. I condemn it. But no, he doesn't want to condemn it. Because to him, oppressed people, subjugated people, can do whatever they want when they are resisting. Well, I'm sorry, but Israel is also flipping the script here and also saying, you know what, we are being constantly bombarded, we are being constantly attacked with rockets, constantly harassed and this and that, and we will finally respond to it as we wish. I mean, if you can just reinterpret things and just adjust your standards of what is good and what is not, why won't the other side do the same thing?
The Seerah teaches us a similar incident when the Muslims were expelled from Mecca, when the Quraysh killed and persecuted dozens of Sahaba, when Ammar saw his own parents, Yasir and Sumayya, literally shred into bits, when Bilal is dragged through the streets, when the Prophet ﷺ is attacked and attempted to be assassinated, and the Muslims flee for their own lives. In one skirmish, some of the Muslims were engaging the Quraysh in the sacred territory of Al-Haram and during the sacred months, and they killed one Qurashi. The Quraysh immediately began spreading news. Oh, look at these terrorists.
You would have to go really into the history of Muhammad and his believers and their history with the Meccan polytheists. But what happened there is, first off, it's very hard to trust the Muslims when they say, the Muslim sources, when they say that the Muslims were persecuted in Mecca by the polytheists. Because what happened is that they were left alone and in peace, and nobody really oppressed them until Muhammad himself became very inflammatory and very hostile toward the polytheists. According to the Sirah, which he's quoting here, it was Muhammad himself who initially threatened them with violence. And then they became very hostile and very angry and began oppressing the Muslims. And then what happens is that after a while of this supposed oppression, the Muslims go away, go to Medina, settle there in Medina to flee the persecution. And instead of living in peace over there, they keep attacking the polytheists and their caravans. And one day they just kill several people during the forbidden months, in the forbidden times. So the polytheists decide to finally attack the Muslims. That's what happens. It's very funny how even here, the Islamic side has to twist the narrative in order to justify their violent actions.
They are killing a Qurashi on sacred grounds inside the Haram area in the sacred months, the Ashhur al-Hurum. These are the real terrorists. They are disobeying the law of Allah. They are disobeying every law known to us. And so this became problematic for the Muslims. What do we do now? I mean, technically.
And at that time, the polytheists weren't doing anything to these Muslims. They weren't doing a single thing to them at all.
So the Muslims were perplexed. Allah revealed in the Quran, listen to this. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الشَّهْرِ الْحَرَامِ قِتَالٍ فِيهِ. They ask you about fighting in the sacred months. They ask you about what happens when somebody's killed in the sacred months. And Allah says, and this is what we should say, قُلْ قِتَالٌ فِيهِ كَبِيرٌ. Killing anybody on sacred land and in sacred times, it is kabir. It is a...
Yeah, it's very interesting, by the way. This is something that I always wanted to talk about, but I have to kind of collect my thoughts on that a little bit. But Islam actually respects and then adopts the sacred months and sacred grounds which the pre-Islamic polytheists believed in, pagan beliefs. But it doesn't really make sense why Islam is actually doing that.
Sin. It is something that should not be done. Allah did not justify this. Allah did not sanction this.
Okay, whatever. I don't care about this right now.
And fasad. It is much bigger, and do not need to defend tactics. Muslims, we do not need to defend that which the general rule of humanity and a people of faith says should not be done.
All right. Look, me gusta. I don't know what you want from me. You keep saying you also twist things. You are a liar. You can just continue making these comments. I don't know what you're talking about. If you think that I'm lying about something or I'm wrong about something, go ahead and show me and tell me what it is.
Reliability.
But if you're just going to make these comments, it's just, it's stupid. Nobody wants to listen to you.
Because we know the general rule of all societies, of all people of faith, of international law, and yes, of our Sharia, is that innocent people should not be killed. Innocent women, innocent children who do not pose any threat should be spared. And we preach this publicly and we say it unabashedly. But
this is so funny. It's not funny, but it's just sneaky, because you can say yes. We don't believe in killing innocent people. And then you can, however, freely define what you mean by innocent. Because by his standards, innocent people is not the same thing as innocent people in Western standards, for example. By his standards, it's for example completely justified to execute people who speak ill of Islam or of the leaders of the Muslim governors, of the Muslim government, or of Muslims, or people who leave Islam. These people are supposed to be executed, and it's okay to execute them. But these people are innocent. They pose no threat at all, right? Normally, practically, they cause no threat. They don't go out and fight. They don't kill anybody. They don't harm anybody. But they insult Islam. They criticize Islam. They endanger the society. They endanger the faith, which is why they shall be killed. That's what Yasir Qadhi believes in. That's what Muslim scholars believe in. That's what many of these Muslim apologists believe in. So they can just redefine what exactly they mean by innocent. ISIS, for example, when they were going around and killing Muslims, in response to people saying, how do you kill Muslims? They said, we are not killing regular Muslims. We are killing traitors, because it is an obligation as set forth by the Prophet and his successors, that when an Islamic state is established, an Islamic authority is established, the Muslims have an obligation to find and to follow the Islamic rule instead of seeking division or worldly rule and all of that. So when they oppose us and when they fight us, when they resist us, they're basically enemies and we have to kill them. That's what they said. Hamas, when they attacked civilians that day, very much said, there are no civilians because they are all occupiers, which is why we can kill them. People can just twist this however they want. So when you say we are against killing civilians, that doesn't mean anything at all. Doesn't mean anything. And yes, obviously, also, if you go to the Muslim sources, Muhammad himself excused the killing of women and children in battles by saying they are of them. So somebody comes to Muhammad and says, hey, when we go on night raids, sometimes we kill women and children. Is that all right? And Muhammad says they are of them. So basically, they belong to the enemy. I don't care. We don't care. He doesn't condemn it. He doesn't say, hey, no, that's completely unacceptable. You have to make sure never to kill civilians. He says, we don't care. They belong to the enemy. Notice that a state privilege granted higher dhimmi taxes. Here's your extra local tax. The great Otto-Turkish prophet. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for paying your jizya. I appreciate it. Rocco said, have you ever looked into the Shia doctrine of Mahdism? The Iranian Revolutionary Guard is really into this. Middle East Institute wrote on it. I made a video about the Mahdi a while ago where I talked about this briefly. But yeah, in Shia Islam, the Mahdi is a very, very big deal. They await this Mahdi, the savior, the hero, the helper, before the end of time. And they go pretty crazy about it. It's part of Iran's official policies to basically wait for the Mahdi to come. It's an apocalyptic state and an apocalyptic religion. It's funny. Triple Liquid said, thank you, AP. I trust your analysis. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Theo Wolfie said, AP, you're such a strapping young man. You're surely candy to the eyes of many women. Stop playing with those words. By the way, there has been an itchy... Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. See, this is what people do when they read too much of Muhammad's phrases. This is the beauty of Islam. This is what happens when you quote Muhammad too much. People start talking about anus and about eyes and leather straps and stuff like that. This is Islam. This is Islam. Sorry. Abu Bakr al-Puff Daddy said, why do moderate Muslims still believe in Islam? Do not moderate Muslims see the contradictions, the falsities, the hypocrisy of this Islamic religion? No. It's very hard to question something that you grow up with, that you are indoctrinated with. It's not very easy. It's a mind virus, mind parasite. It's I would always recommend reading Godsad's book. I have it somewhere here, which is called something parasite of the mind. I don't know. I forgot. I'll tell.
But we also point out not to justify, not to condone, but to educate, to contextualize, to illustrate the reality of war. Again, not to validate.
The Parasitic Mind by Godsad. Yes. Oh yes, Zagros. Thank you.
But to educate that the targeting of innocents during times of war, during times of conflict, this is a brutal reality that happens across the globe. And the very people, the very organizations, the very countries that are pointing fingers are themselves guilty of far greater crimes in this exact same.
Now listen, on October 7, what happened is not that Hamas conducted an operation against Israeli officials and military and forces and all of that. And while they were doing that, of course, also civilians died because it's just part of war. That's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. And we know this. What happened is that they directly attacked civilians with the purpose of killing as many people as possible. We have witness statements. We have the terrorists who were arrested and who gave their testimonies themselves. We have documents retrieved from leaders of the Hamas operation. We have so many different things. I mean, why in the world would Hamas go into a village, which is clearly a village, a community, if their aim is to simply fight the Israeli Defense Forces? They went into a village and they had a map of the village with all the places, all the civilian buildings laid out, with the aim of killing as many people as possible and taking hostages as well. That's what they did. They didn't go and attack the IDF and civilians also died. They specifically went and killed civilians. That's what they did. Here, AP, what about Israelis that said IDF shot the civilians too? There is no single Israeli who said that IDF shot civilians. What is there, and correct me if I completely missed something, there is one issue, which is one of the people who were taken hostage for a very brief time and who was then rescued. Her name is, I think, Yasmin something. What she said is that she was held by these Hamas terrorists, and those Hamas terrorists called the police to surrender themselves or something along those lines. And when the forces came to the kibbutz, to the community or the village, fighting ensued, very heavy fighting ensued. Nobody could see anything, and there was heavy crossfire. And she says in that crossfire, the hostages were killed, and the terrorists also died, and the IDF fighters also died. And it's possible, definitely possible, that the IDF soldiers themselves or the Israeli forces themselves killed some of the hostages in this heavy crossfire. And she specifically says, because it was complete chaos, nobody could make out anything. That's what she said. That's the only thing that exists here. That's the only quote here. And ever since that surfaced, some people, in order to further their propaganda, have made the claim that we now have abundant evidence that the IDF went around killing their own civilians left and right, which didn't happen anywhere. Didn't happen anywhere. Unless I'm wrong. If you are watching this and you think, no, you're completely wrong about this, you're lying about this, you're completely wrong. I'm not lying. This is what I know. And I know that this is what people are talking about. But if you want to disprove me, give me a link. Tell me where exactly we have the knowledge that the IDF actually killed their own civilians. I will look at it. I will open it right here and say, hey, you know what? I was wrong. Go ahead and send me that, please. I'm curious. I want to be corrected.
Genre. Once again, I have to be super careful. Every word I say will be taken by Fox News and by Memory and others and misquoted. So I must be careful. This is not a justification. This is a contextualization. This is an education. So we understand war is brutal and sometimes...
This is so funny. He says this is not a justification, but he just basically justified it, right? He said he will not condemn the tactics of these groups. And he's not going to reject or condemn or criticize what oppressed people do and how exactly they resist. And civilian deaths are part of war. But hey, I'm not going to justify it, he says. He just did. You just justified it. He's spending the whole time justifying it. And then he says, I will not justify it.
Things happen in war that nobody wants to happen. Our own country of America, which of course claims to follow international law and usually says we should not kill innocent civilians. United Kingdom that is also signed on to these international treaties. During World War II, they had...
We'll listen to this part earlier.
Reality. It is an awkward reality. No justification, but facts are facts. That when the war was shifting, when Germany was seeming to have the upper hand, our country, America, spent the equivalent of over $30 billion on the Manhattan Project. And do you know what the Manhattan Project was? The Manhattan Project was an intentional research and survey to create the deadliest bomb hitherto unknown to mankind. They wanted to create the atomic weapon, and the purpose of that weapon was what? It wasn't to bomb the forces of the Germans. It wasn't to annihilate the soldiers. It was intended to create the largest group of mass civilian casualties that the world had ever seen. Groups of...
Okay, as a result of it, of course, lots of civilians will die. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that that there was never an explicit explicit goal of killing as many civilians as possible. It was to cause as much destruction and deaths as possible in order to basically horrify this terrible opponent and to make them stop. It was supposed to be a bomb to end the war, but it wasn't explicitly there to kill as many civilians as possible, right? And that doesn't even make sense, because America told the population to evacuate, to leave? Why exactly would they want to do something to kill as many civilians as possible and then send them a warning beforehand and say, leave now? That doesn't make any sense. But hey, what's happening here is he gave this speech on October 13th, before, or maybe before, and it was published on October 13th. And that was before Israel began its heavy bombardment, the heavy airstrikes on Gaza. So he says here basically that he's not justifying it, but he's contextualizing and explaining that it's okay to target and to kill civilians in some situations because you deem it necessary, and this is a part of war. Sorry, but this is just how it is. That's what he's saying. That's what he's explaining here. And he's basically saying that during the Second World War, the Allied forces bombed civilians, and it was okay. It was a necessity. And when Hamas attacks civilians, it is okay. It is a necessity because it is a brutal part of war. And I'm sorry, that's what he's saying here. But somehow, now, he spends his time crying. Now that the IDF began to respond in very brutal ways, and there is no way of downplaying it, but the IDF has, and they acknowledge it, responded so far in the most brutal ways, and they will continue. Now he is suddenly all against the killing of civilians. And he retweets how Israel is causing a genocide here. Victory is guaranteed. We have a role to play. He's still talking about victory. He's crying now. He's asking for help. You know what? The killing of people, the killing of a civilian population is sad. It's horrible. It's horrible. And if you are outraged about it, yes, be outraged about it. Be sad about it. I'm sad about it as well. But you see what's happening. You see the hypocrisy. Like here he's talking about genocide. He's calling it Gaza genocide. So imagine standing in line for food, not knowing if a bomb will drop on you. You know what? Maybe that's how people in Germany, in Dresden, felt too, when the British were bombing them. But according to Yasser Qadi, that's justified, because that's just the hard truth of war. How does this make sense? Of course, he's going to argue that Israel is the powerful one at the other side and had never a chance. None of this matters. The Allies were also significantly more powerful than Germany, for example, especially after the United States came in. But for some reason, it is all justified to him, the bombing and the targeting of civilians in that case. But in this case, when Israel allows Gaza to self-govern, and when it doesn't kill, when it allows the population there to rise, to increase, right? To increase. And when it warns them every single time. And finally, after repeated attacks, after the worst attack on civilians ever, Israel finally responds with brutal airstrikes, relentless airstrikes. Then suddenly he's like, no, this is unacceptable, unacceptable. I'm sorry, if you are so bothered about this, then you shouldn't say that killing civilians is okay when your people do it, and then later complain about it. If you are so bothered by this, then you shouldn't celebrate Hamas as freedom fighters, or you shouldn't celebrate the Palestinian groups as freedom fighters when things go your way. Now the tide has turned, and now you're crying. And it sounds very cruel when you say this, but this is their whole narrative. And they are responsible for the deaths in Gaza right now. People like Yasser Qadi are also together responsible with Hamas by simply fueling their narrative. And speaking of victory, and speaking of a hypothetical future where Israel will be defeated. Instead of urging the Palestinian side to make peace, to come to proper solutions, to accept that they lost the conflict that they started to begin with, instead of telling the Palestinian side, hey, you know what, make peace, there is no sense in continuing this fight, they continue fueling the fighting. They don't want the Gazan population to find safety, to find refuge when the Israeli Defense Forces tell them to go and evacuate, to go south. They say, no, don't. And then they let their children die, and they let the civilians die. And once the civilians die, once the children die, they start parading them and saying, look, world, listen to us. Look, our children are dying. You were just warned about this. You were told to go away. But you let your children there. You let them die. And now you're complaining about it. After a war that you yourself started. And I've shown the statistics so many times. The majority of Gazans, the majority of West Bank Arabs, they support the idea of conflict. They say we will not stop until we have, until all of it belongs to us, and so on. When was this? 3 weeks ago. Look, October 13th. This is the defense minister. He's saying, go south.
Israel never and ever will not shoot civilians in purpose. Therefore,
did he just say Israel will never not shoot civilians on purpose? This is so messed up and dark, but obviously because he's, I guess, this is the very bad thing about not speaking English very well, right?
we are asking all the civilians in Gaza City to go south of Gaza. And the reason is that because we don't want to harm them. The camouflage of the terrorist is the civil population. Therefore, we need to separate them. So those who want to save their life, please go south. We are going to destroy Hamas infrastructures, Hamas headquarters, Hamas military establishment, and take this phenomena out of Gaza and out of the earth.
This phenomenon.
They cannot live among human civilized.
He says even the infrastructure. This was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, the defense minister told people to go south. Since this came out, Israel repeatedly told the population to go south. Repeatedly said that. And still, so many of the people are in the north where they are not supposed to be. So here is an issue. Here is the thing. Israel is attacked. In response to the attack, they say, you know what, we will start relentlessly bombing and destroying the northern part of Gaza. And we are urging the civilians to leave the north immediately, to get out of there. You are not safe. You will be harmed. You will die because we are going to bomb. This is our response. This is a war. We are going to bomb. Leave. Go south. Despite this, lots of the civilians still stay in the north. Now you can say, where are they supposed to go? They can go south. Gaza is not a very big place. Yes, there will be an overpopulation. It will be overcrowded in the south, but you can go there and it doesn't take very long. You don't have to drive even, you can walk. Gaza is a very small space. If you walk for a few hours, at most maybe for 10 hours, you will be in the south of Gaza from the very north. So you can do that in a day. But you choose to stay in the northern part of Gaza, which is supposed to be bombed by the IDF. They are telling you this in advance, repeatedly, again and again and again and again. And still you stay there. And then you complain when your family dies. And then others start using you when you die. You leave your children in the war zone. The enemy, you might say this is an enemy, I hate them. Okay, fair enough, but the enemy tells you, the location you are at right now, we are going to bomb it, so leave. And you decide to not only stay there, but also to leave your family there, and to have your little children there, to leave your babies there. And once they die in bombings, you then put your children out and say, look, this is what Israel did. They killed my child. Of course, there are also sources which say that Hamas was blocking the streets and hunting people and shooting them down. If that is the case, then who is the most evil, the most wicked, the most messed up here.
Scientists, groups of engineers, groups of physicists, they came together in secret locations for years on end. Billions of dollars were spent, and the explicit purpose, no peace, no cancer research, no nothing. We want to create the most effective bomb to kill whom? Civilians. And what happened? How did World War II come to an end? We all know this reality. Our country, with our tax-paying dollars, used the largest and the most effective and destructive weapons known to mankind, the atomic bomb, and intentionally targeted not the forces of the Germans, not the forces.
How many times did he say this, man?
In front of a map, and they debated the pros and cons of which city should be killed.
How many times did he say this? This is like...
Naval bases was attacked, Pearl Harbor. If you thought you were justified in killing 250,000 people, I want that number to sink in. 250,000 innocent people. And you know the worst part? They intentionally chose mid-sized cities. They didn't want to.
Okay, so this was okay. This is how he's explaining why what Hamas did is not it shouldn't be condemned. Okay, then why exactly is the bombing of Gaza in response to the attacks a big problem? Why is it a big issue?
The Sunnah teaches us, the Seerah teaches us that the default is that during times of war, we're supposed to protect the lives of the innocent. But I merely educate, I merely push back and say, how come you are selective in applying these rules, throwing them in our faces, which we acknowledge these are legitimate rules, when you yourselves don't seem to care about the lives of 2 million innocent civilians? Where is your own supposed care? Where is your own alleged concern for the women and children when they belong to another ethnicity and another religious group?
All he's doing right now is just saying, you guys don't care when you kill millions of civilians out of necessity in a world war. So why do you now care when Hamas is killing 1,400 people to resist? That's all he's doing. Okay, all right. Then why would we have to complain? Why would we have to be sad or even complain about the IDF responding to Hamas and killing thousands of people? This is just so stupid. This is so idiotic.
Muslims, always remember this reality in this land. You don't need to be a Muslim to sympathize with one side. As I said, if the war was somewhat similar, we could understand the bias of each side. But there is no similarity. The fact of the matter is, every neutral person who examines the reality of this situation will come to the same conclusion. Always quote neutral experts and make sure you know these quotes. One of the greatest icons of our century.
And by neutral, he of course means people who agree with him. Okay, there was another part where he brought up dehumanizing of Palestinians. And I think I made a note of that. It was around 27.
I'll acknowledge, rarely this criticism is true. I will acknowledge some
Oh, wait a minute.
more human than that of others to be equal to their own, and therefore
All right.
of the superiority of their own race over that of other people. The root of the problem, frankly, is a racist outlook on the Palestinians and the Arabs and the Muslims. The root of the problem is the superiority complex, that they don't view Palestinian blood and Arab blood and Muslim blood to be equal to their own. And therefore, when they see all that is happening, when they see all of the tactics, their hearts do not stir. There is no emotion because they view themselves and their race.
This is so ironic because I haven't seen another group that is so quick to celebrate the deaths of others when something happens in Israel to Israelis, or when something happens in America to Americans. I haven't seen another group that is as quick to celebrate it as the Muslims. I lived there. I was part of the society so much. For such a long time. I just read so much on my screen and said so much instead of for such a long time. That's funny. I lived among Muslims for a very long time. I grew up among Muslims. I grew up among people who were cheering, justifying, or saying, it's very, very good what happened. When on 9/11, the jets flew into the Twin Towers and thousands of people died. When America was attacked at the heart, and lots of people died. And this was a horrifying terrorist attack. Lots of people around the world were celebrating. Muslims around the world Muslims around me that I knew of were celebrating. In fact, I don't remember a single one of them who was like, "This is horrible. This is very bad." Lots of them were celebrating. I know this. We know this. We also know that. On October 7th, when this attack happened, they were celebrating because Israelis died, celebrating because their opponents died. We know that whenever a natural event, natural catastrophe happens, and people die in other parts of the world, lots of these people are happy about it. And now he really wants to come out and say that the Israelis or the Jews don't feel for their enemies. I mean, these guys don't feel anything for the Israelis who die, right? So this is absolutely ridiculous. But I actually want to bring something here on the screen to just show that. Let's see, Hamas invasion, authority, ambassador, Islamic Jihad post videos of their suicide drones. La 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 la. I want to quickly bring a clip here. Let's see. We thank Iran for providing us with this and that. Invasion of not prostitution, prostration. Iranians celebrate Hamas's invasion of southern Israel, saying you will participate in the slaughter of Jews, death to Israel, death to America. Palestinian Authority, Hamas, commander. There was another video on Memory's page which was showing how the Gazans were celebrating when the attacks happened. They were celebrating together. Come on. But let's look at Iran here. Look, obviously they're very sad, right? You will participate in the slaughter of the Jews, the Zionists. Wow. It's time to kill all the enemies. Wow, look at that. Look at that. They feel so much compassion for their opponents here, as you can see. A lot of compassion here. Stop it, man. How disgusting. How ugly. It even sounds terrible. What the hell is that? Like, shut up. The guy should have some volume buttons or something. Or just something more permanent. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm looking for a video that I saw earlier, but I might find it later.
And their faith as being more human than that of others. And this is what we see around us when we listen to interviews, when we see the tweets, when we see the endorsements from politicians. SubhanAllah, sisters and brothers, you know, when we criticize Israeli policy, when we criticize aspects of what is happening there, we are accused of anti-Semitism. We are accused, oh, you guys are anti-Semitic. I will acknowledge, rarely this criticism is true. I will acknowledge sometimes some clerics and some people use a language that is not appropriate. And they talk...
Sometimes, rarely. You know, like, for example, when these guys say, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That's probably not anti-Semitism. That's just Israel stuff. Yeah. When they say death to the Jews, when they say Khaybar ya Yahud, which means Khaybar was a battle. Khaybar was a place actually that Muhammad went to, and where he fought and defeated the Jews in Medina. And Muslims around the world will continuously repeat that and say Khaybar, Khaybar ya Yehud, which means Khaybar, oh Jews, remember. The Jews don't even know what Khaybar is. They have no idea. It has no significance at all to their history. But the Muslims, this means something. This means a lot. It means, hey, we Muslims, we defeat you and we will do it again. We will fight you. They say armies of Muhammad. They say the day will come when we will slaughter you as it is prophesied. These things are said not by random people. These things are said by voices all around the world when they protest anything that has to do with Jews, anything that has to do with Israel. But hey, of course, nobody's being anti-Semitic here. Nobody at all. Nobody at all. Nothing anti-Semitic here. Hamas is also not being anti-Semitic, of course, right? Hamas is also not being anti-Semitic, of course. Right.
وأيدينا على السلاح أيدينا على الصواريخ
For example, here. All of you 7 million Palestinians abroad, enough of the warming up. You have Jews everywhere. We must attack every Jew on planet Earth. We must slaughter and kill them with Allah's help. And look at this guy here saying, oh Allah, destroy the Jews and their supporters. Probably not anti-Semitic, we're just misunderstanding this. Or this one here. People of Jerusalem, we want you to cut off the heads of the Jews with knives. Of course, this is probably not anti-Semitic. This is probably just you know, he's trying to say something peaceful here. We are just misunderstanding it, of course, yeah. He's even making the thing like, you know, cut off their heads with knives. Buy some knives. With your hand, cut their artery here. Of course, but when he says this stuff, this is not anti-Semitic. This is all just peaceful misunderstanding. We are just misunderstanding this, man. What he's actually saying here is that you should cut the artery of some animals to then slaughter them and give the meat of that animal to the Jews because you love them so much and you want to feed them. You want to share your food with them. That's what he's trying to say. Don't be hateful Islamophobes here. Don't be Islamophobes here. They would never say anything bad. Terrible. You all are so prejudiced and so Islamophobic. Terrible people. Cindy said, where can I find the video? You can find it right on YouTube here. Just search for Hamas in their own words. It is posted by the Israel Defense Forces and also by others. Lots of people posted it. American Jewish Committee, NBC put it out there, and so on. So it's you can find it everywhere. In fact, there is even an article which says Hamas in their own words, and they list lots of things that they said over the decades, which are just brutal, which people don't tell you about at all, that are explicitly anti-Jewish, explicitly genocidal.
Talk about Jewish people altogether. And I say, no, our problem is not with Jewish people. It is not with Christian people.
Of course. How could it be with the Jewish people? How could it be with the Jewish people? You would never be against the Jewish people. You would never have a problem with them. As a Muslim, you would never have a problem with Jewish people. Islam would never have a Jew. Oh, oops. Wait a minute. I forgot about this. Oopsie, I completely forgot about this. Oopsie. Look at what Muhammad said. Abu Hurairah said, the messenger of Allah said, the last hour will not come until the Muslims fight the Jews, until a Jew will hide himself behind a stone or a tree, and the stone or the tree will say, oh Muslim, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. But the gargot tree will not say so, for it is the tree of the Jews. So why given that this is what Muhammad said, given that this is what the majority of Muslims around the world, Sunni Muslims, believe to be authentic, given that they think before the hour comes they will fight and kill the Jews and every single one of them, and even nature will tell them, come, there is a Jew, come and kill him. Given that this is the situation, of course, Muslims wouldn't have a problem with Jews at all. Why would you even think that? Don't be ridiculous.
Our problem is with Zionism. In our lands of Islam, Jews and Christians lived peacefully. They lived as neighbors, as full citizens of an equal opportunity with everybody. Our problem is not with people of another faith. Our problem is with...
Of course. Yeah, I just showed you, right? How can you possibly have a problem with Jews? Why would you have a problem with them? Makes no sense. Don't be ridiculous.
Policies. So I admit, once in a while, you'll find a cleric, you'll find somebody who uses language that is not correct. And there
once in a while, you will find them all over the place, all the time, everywhere. You'll find them all. Just ask him about the prophecy. Just ask, sometimes I wish I could just take somebody like Yasser Qadhi and sit down with him and say, oh, hey, hold on. You just said this. I would like to ask you about this prophecy. Do you believe that one day the Muslims will fight and kill the Jews? And they will hide behind stones and trees, and even the stones and trees will say, there's a Jew behind me, come and kill him. What do you think about this? I really want to ask him here. And you know what? I can predict that he will say that he will believe in it, he will reaffirm it, but then he will still go on to claim that he and they don't have a problem with Jews at all.
Element of anti-Semitism. However, let us flip the script. You say we are anti-Semitic when we point out problems with Israel. Let me flip the script.
Pretty sure that's not what happens, but yeah, let's go.
How about your Islamophobia?
How about no?
When you caricaturize and paint all Palestinians in a particular light? How about your hatred of Islam when you describe everybody in that region with derogatory terms?
What does hatred of Islam have to do with this now? I hate Islam. I don't hate Muslims. I really don't. I can be friends with them. I can have very nice conversations with them, but I hate Islam. What does that have to do with anything? I think Islam harms Muslims, and Muslims need to get out of it.
Our own president, some of the most powerful people in Congress, some of the most influential politicians, the language they use is the language of genocide. It is the language of dehumanization.
Let's see where it comes. Okay. I bet there's genocide here coming somewhere. Let's see.
Israel's minister called all Palestinians beasts and animals. That is not
really
the language of humanity. That is the language of genocide. You are calling for all-out genocide when you say an entire population is subhuman. If you look at...
Oh my gosh. Did you hear that? An Israeli minister said that all of Palestinians are animals, beasts. That's terrible. That is terrible. I mean, if I didn't know that, I didn't know this, but that's unacceptable. I would never agree with such a statement. I have to condemn that completely. How could an Israeli minister say something like that? How could he say all Palestinians are animals? That is unacceptable. That's really, really bad. But wait a minute. I think I know what he's talking about. And I'm pretty sure if he's talking about what I'm thinking of, then the minister never said anything like that. Huh. So let's see. What is his claim again?
Islam, when you describe everybody in that is in a Islamophobia.
Wait.
Terms. Our own president, some of the most powerful people in Congress, some of the most influential politicians, the language they use is the language of genocide. It is the language of dehumanization. Israel's minister called all Palestinians beasts and animals. That is not...
So his claim is Israel's minister called all Palestinians beasts, animals. Let me see the chat here. Yasser Qadhi says that the Israeli minister called all Palestinians beasts, animals. Do you guys think that this is true? Do you guys think that an Israeli minister actually called all Palestinians animals, beasts? What do you guys think? Is the Asghari telling us the truth here? Is he telling the truth here? Did an Israeli minister say all Palestinians are? I know I already have the footage. I heard this earlier, and so I prepared for it. But what do you guys think? Did he do that? Did he do that? All right. Fake news. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Didn't happen. Cher said yes, he said that. Armin K says yes. Not true, says Lisa. Arturo says no way. All right. I don't want to make claims. Thanks, guys, for commenting on it. I don't want to just make claims here, just sit here and make allegations, which is why I heard this part earlier and I thought, wait a minute, that's not what happened. So I pulled up the clips. He's referring to this guy here. That this guy said all Palestinians are animals. Let's listen to what this guy actually said. There are two videos where he talks about this. One was published on October 9, or I think he actually said this earlier, as soon as the attacks happened. The other is here in the field. Let's see what he's actually saying. So, to repeat Yasser Qadhi's claim again, the Israeli minister said that all Palestinians are animals. Let's see what he actually said. I have ordered a complete siege on the Gaza Strip. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals, and we act accordingly. This is what he said. So, all right. You see, the defense minister of Israel said, we are fighting human animals, and we will act accordingly. That's what he said. Yasser Qadhi's claim was, the Israeli minister said, all Palestinians are animals, they're beasts. Okay, let's go to the other clip. Maybe he's talking about the other one. I don't know. Because so far it looks to me like the minister didn't say that. He didn't say all Palestinians are animals. Let's see. Here, oh, he says it right here at the very beginning. You saw what we are fighting against. We are fighting against human animals. This is the ISIS of Gaza. This is what we're fighting against. This is the ISIS of Gaza. Did he say Gaza is ISIS? No, he said this is the ISIS of Gaza. He's referring to a group. And the IDF said repeatedly, what did they tweet? Hamas is ISIS. That's what they tweeted, repeated. That's what they tweeted. That's what they said. They said, make no mistake, Hamas is basically ISIS. And we are fighting the Palestinian form of ISIS. That's what they said. So this guy in two different clips said, we are fighting animals and we will act accordingly. He says we are fighting human animals and we act accordingly. They are not fighting all of the people. They are fighting Hamas. That's what they're fighting. They're specifically fighting Hamas. If you want to come out here and say, no, it's not Hamas. It can't be Hamas. He is referring to all Palestinians as animals. That's simply a lie. That's a lie. It's a complete lie. If this is what you want to go by, then we can turn this around and do exactly what Yasser Qadhi just claimed the other side is doing. We can turn this around and say, hey, you said that Israel is evil, that in Israel they have this complex, that they feel nothing for the Palestinian side, that they're like monsters. So you are basically saying that all Jews are animals, that all Jews are monsters. That's his logic. One more time.
Israel's minister called all Palestinians beasts and animals. That is not the language.
What a liar.
הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם.
We are fighting human animals and we act accordingly. We are fighting human animals. This is the ISIS of Gaza. He's clearly referencing the people, the group that he fights, and he's calling them human animals. And Yasser Qadhi is saying, even emphasizing it so much, that he called all Palestinians beasts, animals. How in the world can you lie this blatantly?
Minister called all Palestinians beasts and animals. That is
All Palestinians. All right, well, by your logic, since he just said some really nasty words about Israel, about Zionists, about all of that, you guys heard it, right? You have all heard it right here. Yasser Qadhi just called all Jews monsters. Wow, terrible. See? How can you accept this? He just called all Jews monsters. We've seen it. Don't deny it. Don't deny it. Yasser Qadhi just called all Jews monsters. You have seen it right here. It's right here. Don't deny it now.
is not the language of
What a complete liar. What a scumbag. We know that he's a liar. Many other Muslims have admitted by now that he's a liar, including Fareed, for example. We know he's a liar, and he's lying about something like this, something so critical.
humanity. That is the language of genocide. You are calling for all-out genocide when you say an entire population is subhuman. If you look at the language that is
Which nobody ever said.
used, they don't deserve to live. We will annihilate all of them. Again, this isn't a few people that did what you consider a crime.
If we are to accept his claim that the defense minister called, openly called all Palestinians animals, then how can you possibly combine that with the defense minister also appealing to the civilization, to the people, to the population in Gaza, and telling them, we don't want to fight you, we don't want to kill you, get out of the way because we are going to destroy Hamas? How can you put those two things together? I showed it at the very beginning. Here is the speech.
Purpose. Therefore, we are asking all the civilians in Gaza City to go south of Gaza. And the reason is that because we don't want to harm them. The camouflage of the terrorist is the civil population. Therefore, we need to separate them. So those who want to save their life, please go south. We are going to destroy Hamas infrastructures, Hamas headquarters.
This is very weird. So according to Yasser Qadhi, this guy said that all Palestinians are animals, and he dehumanized them to kill them all. But for some reason, he's here saying we don't want to, kill civilians. So save yourselves, go south, because we will destroy the infrastructure, the buildings. We will destroy Hamas. Strange. Doesn't make much sense, but if an Islamic scholar said it, then it must be true. Who are we to question this? Yasser Qadhi, everyone is seeing it, except some people who agree with you because they are just as dishonest as you are. People are seeing this. You are a liar, Yasser Qadhi. You are a liar. It's right here on open display. The guy is lying to his own audience. And that's the thing. He's not lying to the world here. He's lying to his own audience. This is a khutbah, a sermon, a speech to his own Muslim audience. This is his khutbah, his sermon to his own Muslim listeners. He's lying to them. He's lying to them and claiming that an Israeli minister said all Palestinians are animals. All Palestinians are beasts. You can't make it clearer. He emphasizes it so badly. All Palestinians are beasts.
Palestinians, language of dehumanization. Israel's minister called all Palestinians beasts and animals. That is
beasts and animals. All Palestinians. Well, Yasser Qadi, you just called all Jews monsters. Shame on you. Shame on you. You disgust me. You make me sick.
You're sick. You're sick.
Is not the language
Oh, hey, this is what should be used.
Liar. You're a liar.
of humanity. That is the language of genocide. You are calling for all-out genocide when you say an entire population is subhuman. If you look at...
And you know what? I think I'm done with this video. I'm done with Yasser Qadi here. If you want to talk about genocide, if you want to talk about dehumanizing the other side and calling for genocide, Israel has never, ever said that a genocide should be caused. Israel has never said that the entire population of the other side should be eventually exterminated and annihilated. No actual person in power, in charge, leading Israel has ever said anything like that. But you all know who did, right? We all know who did. Because we saw it repeatedly, again and again. First off, Muhammad did, yes, Muhammad did. The Prophet of Islam, he did. We know that. He did, yes, he did. But the two leaderships of the Palestinian territories are the ones which actually said that. I went into that earlier this week, and we watched a video in which this guy said that all of Israel will be destroyed and Israel will be completely annihilated, and we will do everything we can to remove Israel completely. Everything we do is justified. I just showed you a video earlier of Hamas representatives repeatedly saying, go out and kill the Jews, buy knives and kill them. Plus, we also have Hamas in their own charter saying that eventually all the Jews must be eradicated. We have Muslims going around implying that the Jews will be eradicated by referencing the hadith that I read earlier. We have Muslims going around saying the garbage tree is not going to protect you, we will slaughter you. We have the Palestinian Authority, which is in charge of the West Bank, publishing a paper and preaching to their own Muslim audience this. And this is another live stream and also a video that I published, which says, which is called "Warning: Palestinian Authority says Muslims will exterminate the Jews." This is an official paper issued by the Palestinian Authority to their religious affairs ministry, where they instructed the mosques to preach to their audiences a sermon in which they say the hour will not be established until the Muslims will fight the Jews, and the Jews will hide behind stones and trees, and the stone and tree will say, "O Muslim, servant of Allah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him," except for the garget tree, because it is the tree of the Jews. The Palestinian organizations, the Palestinian governments in charge, actually dehumanize the other side and actually promise and command the killing of the population, of their opponent, of the Jews, of the Israelis. They actually say these things. They actually instruct them. They actually make these promises. And then hypocrites, liars like this guy stand here and accuse Israel of being the ones who, dehumanize the other side and who call for genocide. If you are seeing this, if you are listening, if you know about any of this, and if you are seeing this right now, it should be very obvious to you that there is only one side here which repeatedly and explicitly called for and promised the complete destruction and extermination of the other side. And that side is not Israel. It is the Palestinian organizations, the Palestinian leaders, who repeatedly called for the genocide of the other side. It is the Palestinian side, the Palestinian mosques, the Palestinian leaders, the Palestinian activists who repeatedly call for the destruction and the annihilation of Jews and of Israelis. And yet this guy wants to stand here and accuse Israel of doing exactly that. Complete liars and hypocrites. Well, they wanted a war, they wanted a conflict, and now they're getting it. As we have seen it here, this guy was justifying the killing of civilians, considering it a necessity. And now they're getting it. It's not so great now, is it?
Affected
Let's see.
voices today
I want
calling
to quickly listen to this guy here. Mossab Hassan Youssef.
Hi everyone. There are more voices today calling for ceasefire. And the mission is not accomplished yet. The mission of removing Hamas from power is not over. We just started. And we have increasing voices calling for ceasefire. Those voices mean that we have to let Hamas get away with their crime. We have to let Hamas get away with their strategy that is aiming to annihilate the state of Israel and risk the lives of the Palestinians, using them as human shields. And to that I say, no. We cannot stop now. Peacemaking will be after war. Israel and the free world, the United States government, and every free individual in the world, we did not start this war. Hamas started this war, and we have a responsibility towards the world, towards the region, towards Palestinians, towards Israelis, towards all civilians who are affected by this barbaric group. It's as simple as...
Is this too loud? I think it's a bit too loud to me, but for some reason the sound of this video is very loud. I'm not playing with it because I think it's just me, but
that. The true peacemakers today are the ones who are carrying the weapons and fighting against Hamas barbaric movement. Those are the true peacemakers today. Everyone else, if they don't have anything to say, they better be silent.
Good. I love this guy. He says it all. He says enough. There is no way that Israel should right now give in to the demands and actually agree to a ceasefire. That's precisely what Hamas wants. We have all seen it. That's precisely what they want. That's precisely what they asked for, so that they can regroup and, as they said, prepare for the new attack and attack Israel again and again and again. And I played this a few days ago, but I just need everyone who missed it to see this again and again and again, because it's like, I feel like the world is insane right now, and people think that we are just dealing with a side that would just completely, that would calm down and make peace with you if you just agreed to make peace. This is not what Israel is dealing with. This is a Hamas spokesperson. He said, we will do it again. This is October 24th. Ghazi Hamad, he's a spokesperson for Hamas.
إسرائيل دولة لا مقام لها على أرضنا.
Israel is a country that has no place in our land.
إحنا الدولة لابد أن نزيلها.
Must remove it.
لأنه بالفعل هي تعتبر كارثة أمنية وعسكرية وسياسية للأمة العربية والإسلامية، يجب أن تنتهي. لذلك إحنا لا نخجل من نقول.
We are not ashamed to say this with full force.
ذلك بكل قوة إنه إسرائيل لازم نأدبها، وحنأدبها مرة ثانية وثالثة.
He is referring to the October 7 attacks on Israel, and he's saying we must teach Israel a lesson, and we will do this again and again. Again and again. Even if Israel stops right now and says we will never go to war again, this guy will go back and he will tell Hamas, along with all the other leaders, to prepare for the next attack, and they will again have an attack on Israel and again kill civilians.
ومش هذا حتكون طوفان الأقصى أول مرة، لا حتكون ثاني وثالث ورابع.
The Al-Aqsa flood, which is the operation which these guys give to the October 7 attacks, are only the first time. There will be a second, a third, a fourth.
لأنه إحنا لدينا إصرار ولدينا.
Because we have the determination, the resolve, and the capabilities to fight. People are complaining that in Gaza the situation is very bad, is dire. People don't have the means to survive. This guy is saying we will continue attacking and we will do it again and again and again, and we have the means. Why are people protesting Israel? Protest these guys. The government that is in charge of Gaza, that has the mission, the duty, the responsibility to protect the people in Gaza, to take care of them. This guy is saying we have the means to continue fighting forever and to attack Israel forever. And we will continue with the terrorist attacks forever. That's what this guy is saying. Why in the world would Israel now stop?
لدينا قرار ولدينا امكانيات ان نقاتل ونحارب، لكن كما قلت لك بدنا ندفع ثمن. نعم احنا مستعدين. معلش بدي اقول لك بشكل واضح، احنا اسمنا شعب الشهداء.
There is a price to pay. We are a nation of martyrs and we are proud to sacrifice martyrs. He's referring to the people who are dying on his own side.
وبنفخر ان نقدم شهداء. احنا لا نريد ان نمس لا بالمدنيين ولا ان نلحق الاذى بهم، لكن اوقات لانه في تعقيد.
Then he lies and says we didn't want to kill civilians. We know for a fact that most of the victims in Israel are civilians and they specifically targeted civilians. But he's lying.
في الميدان صارت في منطقة موجودة، وكان هناك في احتفال وكان في سكان وفي منطقة واسعة ليست سهلة على امتداد تقريبا 40 كيلومتر. يجب ان ننتهي.
ان ينتهي وين؟
بس
The occupation must come to an end. Look, this is what I was talking about. This is basically what Yasser Qadi is saying when he says 80-year-old occupation.
بس ينتهي إلى لا بتكلم عنه كل الأراضي.
He says all of the Palestinian land.
فلسطين.
كل الأراضي الفلسطينية.
So, and she asks, does it mean the annihilation of Israel? He says,
يعني زوال إسرائيل.
طبعا.
Of course. This is what they mean when they talk about occupation. They're not talking about the occupation of the West Bank, the occupation of Gaza, or whatever it is. To them, the existence of Israel alone, even if Israel existed only in a very small spot, it would be an occupation to them. Because to them, Israel should not exist. It should be completely gotten rid of. It should be destroyed. There should be no Israel. And as long as Israel exists, they will not stop fighting. They will not stop with the terrorist attacks. They will not stop killing civilians. Why would Israel make peace with this? Why would Israel do a ceasefire with this?
وجود إسرائيل غير منطقي. وجود إسرائيل هو اللي بخلق كل هذه الآلام والعذابات والدموع
The existence of Israel.
والدماء هي إسرائيل مش إحنا. إحنا ضحية الاحتلال. نقطة آخر السطر. لذلك ما حدا يلوم.
We are the victims of the occupation, so there should be no blame for what we do.
إحنا شو اللي بنعمله. في 7 أكتوبر في 10
October 7, October 10, October 1 million, everything we do is justified. You hear it right here from him.
10 أكتوبر في مليون أكتوبر إحنا اللي بنعمل مبرر. It is justified. مبررة.
That's what he's saying. Israel is the only country in the world from which people expect to not respond or to make ceasefire with these terrorist groups that surround it and relentlessly attack it and say we will attack and we will kill them forever. We will not stop until they're gone. Israel is supposed to just, not shoot back, not fight back, not bomb back. That's what people are basically saying here. Because the reality of the situation is, if Israel leaves Gaza completely alone, lets them thrive, Hamas is in charge of Gaza and will attack Israel again. There is simply no way. Israel is the only state, the only nation that is expected to just sit there and to just let them rape. Israel is the only nation that is supposed to just sit there and let them shoot, let them kill, let them slaughter, let them mutilate, let them rape. Israel is supposed to lay down and just get raped and not do anything about it. That's what people are saying. That's what people are insinuating here. Just let it happen. If you resist, if you respond, then you are the bad guy. It's ridiculous, man. This is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. In response to what Yasser Qadi just said for a while, the complete liar, I just want to play something very brief from Ben Shapiro here, which I found priceless.
the establishment of Israel, 55,000 Palestinian homes have been bulldozed. So why isn't Hamas justified in doing what it did if we use your logic?
So I'm going to answer your question, then I'm going to ask you a question if you don't mind. Is that all right? So so my answer is that Israel would not be justified in killing Palestinian civilians because of the actions of terrorists. Israel would be justified in attempting to kill terrorists, and civilian casualties are a cost of war. That is just a reality of life. During World War II, there were 70,000 Brits who died during the Blitz bombing, and there were 2 million Germans who died, civilians who died during World War II. And I don't see a lot of monuments in Britain because of the 2 million civilians who died in Germany. The costs of war are brutal, they're terrible, they're horrifying. There's a vast difference in moral scope between deliberately going into a civilian area and murdering everyone you can find and trying to kill a terrorist who is deliberately hiding beneath a civilian area, hiding their rockets in civilian areas, starving their own people.
Did I skip that part? Where is that? Somebody put a timestamp on here. Let's see. That was a highlight. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go?
There is a vast difference. Okay, so now I get to ask my question, if you don't mind. So my question is, do you believe that there is a moral difference between Hamas going into, for example, Kfar Aza and murdering entire families, and Israel attempting to target terrorists and accidentally hitting civilians?
Israel is effectively doing the same because Gaza is the most densely populated region in the world. There are 15,000 people per square mile.
So does Hamas get immunity because they're there? So Hamas gets immunity. So
Israel has killed 3,500 children in the past 3 weeks. That's more children. That's more children than have died in conflicts around the world in each of the last 4 years.
So just to be clear,
this is what people clap about.
Your logic is that if you're a terrorist group located in a densely populated community, you hide behind civilians, you are now immune.
Where are the children meant to go?
So you're immune. Okay. That's a violation of the Geneva Conventions, but okay. You're now immune. Your logic is that if you're a Hamas terrorist...
Sorry, since 2005, 23 out of every 24 conflict deaths have been Palestinian. I don't see any moral equivalency there. It's clearly unjust what the IDF has been doing to the Palestinians because there's a vast disparity between the number of Palestinians being killed and the number of Israelis.
I mean, I would certainly hope that Israel is killing more Hamas
This isn't a conflict. This isn't a conflict. This is one side.
Look at these people clapping. The logic here is basically what she presented is that Israel killed significantly more people than Hamas did. Okay. All right. Okay. But what exactly are you trying to say here? Therefore, Israel is the bad guy? Is that what that means? How stupid is this? What do people think war looks like? Some people say Oxford has gone really bad. Oxford Union is actually has nothing to do with Oxford University. It is just a community that was established where people from Oxford University go to argue, to discuss. So it's not necessarily all students of Oxford.
Ethnic cleansing.
So, again, I'm just asking you, if based on the numbers, more Germans died than Brits in World War II, did that mean that the British were wrong in World War II? Because they did. Many more Germans
this is the part, look.
Died than Brits. Based on the numbers, does that mean that Britain was wrong in World War II?
Britain wasn't bombing civilians. There's a clear difference.
You should talk to the people in Dresden, but you can't because they're dead.
There's a clear difference. Well, I agree that war is horrible, but this is not a just war. What Israel is doing is not a just war. There is a difference between fighting the Nazis.
So it is not a just war to
fighting the Nazis.
It is not a just war when you fight a war against people who murder 1,500 of your civilians and take 233 of them, at last count, captive into tunnels. It is not a just war to obliterate them. Please name a just war.
Israel's been killing civilians for...
See? You see, right? Wow. This is what we're dealing with. I disagree with Ben Shapiro on so much stuff. On so much. He's socially conservative. I'm not. He's, I don't know. I disagree with him so much, but he's fantastic in these discussions. And this just exposes the sheer ignorance, the naivety, the stupidity, the hypocrisy of these people who who object to what Israel is doing right now in response to Hamas. It's laughable. It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. This is what we're dealing with. She then resorts to saying, well, Israel is not fighting a just war. Well, great. Okay. If you get to decide what just is, then we are in big, big trouble. All right. I will now read the I love how he's saying you should go and talk to the people of Dresden because they're dead. Sanka said, reading about PLO in Lebanon is amazing how it's the same behavior. Non-stop attack to get IDF response, hide among civilians, play victim to get help. That's the method. That's the method. Lucid said, I'm sorry, but I can't take anyone seriously who thinks that rocks and trees can talk to them. If anyone else said this, they would be put in a mental hospital. Bilal Ali, shout out to all ex-Muslims in Palestine. Shout out to them. Shout out to them. But you should get out of there. And yes, there were people actually could get out of there. Yes, and go to different places. I mean, even Arabs living in Israel, Israeli Arabs, are not doing poorly. Bilal Ali said, shout out to all ex-Muslims in Israel. Didn't I just read that? Oh, no, that was Palestine. Okay. Israeli Mossad, thank you. But you should do this more in a more subtle way so that people don't notice. Don't just put the logo on here, man. My employers made a super chat. Now everyone knows. Sid Dave said all 57 Islamic countries are apartheid. Why is West not bringing sanctions on such countries? Muslims destroy the spirit to resist in the religious minorities and persecute them without any mercy. I agree. Where are all the sanctions on Pakistan? Where are the sanctions on Saudi Arabia and all the others? Sid Dave said, we all know that the Arab pagans were absolutely right about Muhammad. They were the good guys who lost to the evil Mo and his followers. Yeah. Knows too much that Muslims often project their own evil on others, accusing them with what they do: imperialism, conquest, genocide, lying, discrimination, slavery. Rocco said, have you seen the reports that jihadis are using a drug called Captagon to fuel their campaigns? How does drug use fit into Islamic law? I know that there has been evidence that terrorists use the drug before they go on their killing spree, which I haven't studied the details of it, but it acts similar to meth. I don't know, in that it makes them extremely hyper-focused, enraged, and it clouds their judgment. But I don't know enough about it to comment on it. Joy Martoni said, so he's saying it's okay to kill children and babies as long as they are not Muslim. Pretty much, that's what Yasser Qadhi was saying. And you have all seen it, right? Yasser Qadhi said all Jews are monsters. That's what he just said, by his own logic. Carson Death said, this Jew ain't no damn dhimmi, and I refuse to pay the jizya, but here are some shekels from the elders of Zion. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You know what's so I often say funny, but it's not really funny. It's just messed up. So the whole protocols of elders of Zion is a Nazi propaganda hoax piece to vilify the Jews at this supposed global Jewish agenda. And actually, Hamas, in their 1988 charter, had references to that, to the protocols of elders of Zion, which is just insanely ridiculous, insanely hateful, insanely stupid, purely anti-Semitic garbage. But they did. So if you know about this, and you didn't know that Hamas actually referenced it, then here it is. If you don't know about this, look into the protocols of the elders of Zion. It's a conspiracy theory, and an age-old one, about global Jewish control. It's crazy, nutty nonsense. But here, in their founding charter, in Article 32, it actually says, The Zionist plan is limitless. After Palestine, the Zionists aspire to expand from the Nile to the Euphrates. When they will have digested the region they overtook, they will aspire to further expansion, and so on. Their plan is embodied in the protocols of the elders of Zion. And their present conduct is the best proof of what we are saying. This is an old conspiracy theory, which I also heard of when I was younger among Muslims, which neo-Nazis spread forever, that Jews have this master plan to control the whole world. And Hamas actually included this in their official charter at the very beginning. But hey, oh wait, I'm not showing this on my screen. Great, fantastic. Here. Fantastic. I forgot to share my screen, but yeah, here it is. This is the Hamas charter. Article 32, and here they talk about the protocols of the elders of Zion. It's right here. It says their plan is embodied in the protocols of elders of Zion. I try to zoom to make it more visible, and then I get lost here. But yeah, here, the plan is embodied in the protocols of the elders of Zion. Hamas Charter 1988. This is how insane and how messed up they are. That's Hamas for you. Cars in Depth, I just read that. Jacques said, "Hi AP, here is my jizya. One question, have you read Timur Quran's book, The Long Divergence of How Islamic Law Held Back the Middle East? Would be cool to make a video on the topic, or invite the guy." No, I haven't. Who's that? Timur Quran. Never heard of him. Turkish-American economist and political scientist. Huh. Turkish-American. I don't like Turkish Americans. I will have a look into that. I'll see. I have to drink something. I just noticed. All right. Ari Wasserman, thank you for being here. Nice to see you. Nobody with moral self-awareness is Muslim right now. Sorry, sweeties. I know, yeah, that's yeah, Sakari just said that very much. So good logic. But thank you. Joshua Wooden said, why in America's colleges they are safe spaces to be away from hate speech and being called the wrong pronouns, but the same colleges chanting gas the Jews. That is not hate speech. Well, so a few days ago, there was actually a discussion. Oh, it was yesterday. There was a whole discussion on the term from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And Rashida Tlaib, who is an American congresswoman, she claimed that this is not a hateful, is not a violent slogan. It's actually a very good, peaceful slogan to aspire for freedom and hope and equality and all of that. When we all know that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It was from the beginning a chant about removing Israel, getting rid of the Zionists, and turning it all into an Arab-Palestinian land. So when now the same people also say gas the Jews, what we have to understand is that they don't mean any harm. What they're trying to say is like give laughing gas to the Jews. Or, I don't know, give gas that makes them feel better. Sedative gas. Give them gas to, operate and make them get rid of their, I don't know, like, when you go to the dentist and you have too much pain and they give you gas and stuff like that. It's a good form of gas. That's what they're trying to say. That's what they're trying to say. You shouldn't always take it in the worst way. Why would anybody ever? Why would the pro-Palestine side ever advocate for killing or all of that? That's just unacceptable. That's a very bad accusation. Yes, helium gas. It's all in good. It's all with good intentions. It's all kindness. That's what they're trying to do here. They would never say anything hateful, never say anything genocidal. They would never say anything bad. They would never have a problem with Jews at all. Sid Dave said, shame that these folks have acquired U.S. citizenship. Yeah, yes. I don't know who you mean, but yes. Gordon's Bulldozer said, what's the best Muslim food? Not gonna lie, I'm floating right now. Muslim food. I don't know. That's too broad of a question. Psyche said, after Nasrallah's speech, many Muslims on X gave up on global jihad, saving Hamas, and now say only Imam Mahdi can help Gaza. Is this the ultimate Muslim cope? Yes, it is. People were actually expecting Hezbollah on Friday to jump in and to become part of the war. But Hezbollah leader Nasrallah came out and he basically said, well, right now, we can't do anything. But, if we are directly attacked or if we see that this situation is getting worse, then we will jump in. But he basically let the whole ummah down. And now they are all very worried and they think the Mahdi will probably step in and do something. I don't know. The end will come. They always think that. Loco said, I sent the link to prove IDF attack AP. You did, huh? Let's see. So you sent a link to what? To prove that IDF killed their own people? Is that what you're saying? Huh. I don't see a link here. I don't see it at all. Don't see it. I still don't see it. There's no link anywhere here. Give me, tell me what the title of the article is that you're referring to, or the video that you're referring to. Please tell me. I want to see it. I want to be disproven. I want to see that I was completely wrong, that the IDF actually totally, killed their own people. I want to see all of the bad stuff that Yasser Qadi and insane people like you say happened. Please tell me. Prove me wrong. I want to be educated. Educate me. Have you heard of the theory that the original Al-Aqsa Mosque is actually in Hijaz, near Taif? What do you think of it? Did I hear of that before? That the original Al-Aqsa Mosque. I've heard something like that before, but I haven't really looked into it very much, to be very honest. I haven't even looked very deeply into the whole idea that that the real Mecca was actually Petra in Jordan. I watched the documentary that this whole thing is mostly based on and read some of the claims, but it didn't seem reasonable to me. But I also didn't look very much into it either, so I wouldn't be ready for a discussion on either of these things. Ari Wasserman said, Yasser Arafat Qadi. Same people. Dark Brandon said, to be honest, people like this guy, he means me, now they can just say these vile things since they'll face no repercussions. He's talking about me. Due to apparent progressive will fall on their swords to defend this kind of behavior. I'm sorry. Dark Brandon. Just kidding. He's talking about Yasser Qadi. Nobody could tell. But yeah, I agree. Gorno's Bulldozer said also Dave Chappelle said some pro-Palestine stuff. I don't really pay attention to what comedians say, except if they say something that's funny and that I agree with. Joshua Wooden, I hope you can see both of David Wood's debates today. You might want Aaron Rod to win, but count the ad hominems one gives to the other debater. And no, the psychopath is not mocking the other. I don't hope for anyone to win in a debate on God. I don't hope for either side to win. I'm just interested in how it goes. And honestly, I haven't listened to any God debates in a long time. I haven't listened to any God debates in a long time.
How about no? I don't buy your Ella.
But I might have a look later and see. I also haven't seen Aaron Rod debate very much, but I know he's a very impatient guy. Jim Lord said, these Muslims are using the victim card, the Islamophobia. True. I agree with that. Ari Wasserman said, the Prophet says none of this matters. Qadi would say it's a metaphysical matter, or that's what Farid will say.
It is a metaphysical matter.
What the hell? I mean...
Lucid said, funny how lefties think Islam is a religion of brown people when Mo himself had white skin and red hair. Just look at Mo's super white descendants. Yeah. Arabs are very mixed people who are very often quite white, right? They're quite white, right? Said Dave, these people only feel pain of fellow Muslims and cry apartheid, but not the pain of non-Muslims, religious minorities, and the apartheid they inflict. True, I agree completely. Sankey said, Sahih Hadith, if atomic bomb attacking rave, okay. Sahih Qadi. Sorry, I misread. That's on me. Yeah, so he said that the atomic bomb basically ended the Second World War. So, yeah, therefore it's also okay to attack party goers and all of that. That's basically what's happening here. That's the logic. But once the response comes, then that is evil. Absolutely evil. Curtis said, geez, have you ever heard so much word salad? Not sure if you're talking about me or Yasser Kahari, probably about me. I'm sorry for speaking so much. Yeah, no, I know. He just repeated a lot of stuff and was so fallacious. And ironically, he has no self-awareness and doesn't really notice how his point is completely... He's shooting himself in the foot with the entire speech, right? It's ridiculous. But thank you for the contribution. Big super chat here, very bigly. I will frame this and put it on a wall. Dankworth Balthazar said, I laugh when they who at the spare are bold and venturous. If that fail them shrink and fear, what yet they know must follow, to endure exile, the sentence of the conqueror. John Milton. Yes. Ari Wasserman said, how dare these racist Jews have the arrogance to condemn we poor Arabs and Muslims for owning black slaves because Muhammad did it. I mean, he is playing that card so much, overplaying it. They are racist. They don't like Muslims. They don't like Islam. They don't see Arabs as humans. That's why they treat us like this. And that's why we have the right to fight by all means. And I will not condemn anything that our side does. That's basically what he does. It's disgusting. It's horrible that they're still going with that victim card. It's just ridiculous. Notice that Sir Whitemeat once wrote, the Jews are the leather strap of Islam, and when the Jews sleep, the leather strap of Islam is loosened. I see what the great Prophet Whitemeat meant by this after seeing so many Muslims cheer. Same. Absolutely same. Swiss Apologetics said, use worst of creatures are such bigots. I can't read. Us worst of creatures are such bigots. I know, yeah, terrible. Good point. Why didn't I bring that up earlier? Quran 855. Quran 855 and Quran 69. Quran 98:6. Quran 98:6. Let's put this on the screen here. What does the Quran say? What does the Quran say about the disbelievers? The Quran says some very bad things about the disbelievers. It says 98:6 says, indeed, those who disbelieve from among the people of the book, the Christians and Jews, and the polytheists will be in the fire of hell to stay there forever. They are the worst of all beings, or the worst of all creatures. This is what the Quran says about the disbelievers. In another verse, Quran chapter 8, verse 55, it says, indeed, the worst of all beings in the sight of Allah are those who persist in disbelief, and they will never believe. This is what the Quran says about those who disbelieve. This is what the Quran says about non-Muslims, about disbelievers, about those who reject Islam, that they are the worst of creatures, lower than any other creature, lower than maggots, than animals, and all that. See? And Yasser Qadi is complaining about some perceived dehumanization. But here, let's use Yasser Qadi's words, the Quran Allah says that all disbelievers are animals, worse than animals. Terrible, terrible. Allah says that all disbelievers are worse than animals. Allah says, the Quran says that all disbelievers are worse than maggots. See? When I said this, I was actually right. I'm not lying. I'm pointing out a fact. When Yasser Qadhi says that about some Israeli minister, he's lying. That's the bad thing here. Anti-Semites have been making up community notes. I know. Yes. Jeff Durbin said, fascinating that Islamic nations are completely militarily and civilly inept and yet continue to believe they are the best of all people and will win. In the end, they will definitely win, because in the end, always the good side wins. That's why they will in the end win. But the end will never come. So St. Miles said, very interesting commentary. Gotta go, staying away from Islam. Bye. Thank you. Thank you, St. Miles, for saying hello. Marta Gall said, Britain was bombing civilians. Dresden? I know, right? Everybody who knows the history of the Second World War knows this. Follower of the Quran said, peaceful Muslims are the exception, not the rule. I wouldn't say that. That sounds very bad. Crimson Air said, what is the nature of the intense hatred that Muslim Arabs have for Jews? Did it start in 1948, or does it go all the way back to Ishmael and Isaac? I wouldn't say it goes all the way back to Ishmael and Isaac. I would say it goes back all the way to Muhammad. Muhammad, when he was spreading his religion, was initially sympathetic toward the Jews and the Christians. And he was going around and saying, hey, guys, we believe in the same God. Look, the same God that he sent me as a prophet. Hey, guys, same God. I just spoke to the very same God. He's talking to me right now, guys. I'm on a mission for the same God, guys. And then they laughed at him and rejected him. And then he started hating them. Poor guy. And ever since, there is an Islamic hatred toward Jews. That's how simple it is, and how pathetic it is. But yeah, of course, the conflict definitely increased the immediate hate and all of that. Sid Dave said, from the river to the sea, Palestinians will flee. Yeah, no, I say that from the river to the sea, it is already free, except for what Hamas has occupied. People are complaining. What does YWNBW mean? Why are some people saying this? Is this a code? What is this? What does it mean? What do people mean? What do people mean by this? Am I missing something? What does that mean? I just Googled it. YWNBW says you will never be a woman. You will never be a woman. Really? What does it have to do with this? What does it have to do with anything here? How is this the place for that? Shame on you. Shame on you, you Islamophobes. You're dehumanizing Muslims right now. Completely unrelated, but that's Yasser Qadhi's logic. So, Michael Tennant said, from the river to the sea, take my jizya and let me be. Thank you. I thank you for your jizya. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your help. Weasel said, your whole channel reminds me of a course I took in university called Jihad and Reform in Islam. Thanks for your work. Well, thank you. Thank you. You make this possible. You make this course possible, if you can call it that. Christine Live. Hey, thank you so much, Christine Live, for the contribution. Thank you so much. I appreciate it very, very much. Biggest super chat today. I will hang this on a wall in my mind. Thank you. And I will think of you. Said, if Hamas leaders desire martyrdom, why are they living in Qatar? How close is Iran to having nukes? Do you think they have one? What would you say is the chance of this escalating into a world war? Hamas leaders are living large. They're living very, very good lives in Qatar, in Turkey, they have a lot of money, they get a lot of funds, and they live in peace. And they send their own people in Gaza to die, to fight for them, for their agenda. That's what they do because they're cowards. They're cowards with an agenda who are careless about actual human lives, who are careless about actual suffering, which is why the Hamas leaders live in comfort and give interviews around the world and live in their fancy places while telling their people to go and die for Palestine. That's what they do. They are corrupt, they are cowards, they are animals. Oh, look what I just said. Can't wait to hear the accusations. How close is Iran to having a nuke? I'm not sure. I don't know anything about that. I haven't followed that whole discussion for a long time. Not sure if they're close at all. Do you think they have one? Not sure. I would have to listen to somebody else on this issue. I think that would be very, very, very much outside my scope of knowledge. And what would you say is the chance of this escalating into a world war? I mean, there is always a chance. The thing is, the thing with World War II, for example, is that, or more so with World War I, is that it was probably at the time very hard to predict that things would escalate into a global war. It just, things piled upon each other and a major war ensued. It was, I guess, more predictable in the Second World War, but even then, people probably didn't think that the whole world would be engaged in a major war. It's now easier today, nowadays, after these world wars, and after so much information, after TV, after movies on these world wars, after video games, and after all of that, after school telling us all about it. It's easy for us now to predict a world war coming, or to just say this might lead to a world war, but nobody really knows. The thing is that I think it's very unlikely for Russia to actually step into this war, even if there is a regional war. It's very unlikely for Russia to go to war with Israel. I don't think that they are willing, or even ready, or even capable of doing that. Russia, it will be very weak if they get involved. China wants to avoid war at all costs. They just want to focus on becoming an economic power. So as much as people fear a world war, I would say that the likelihood is not very high, honestly. But anything could happen. Most of the Muslim countries, they don't want to war. They can't go to war. They're not capable of going to war. They are scared. They'll talk a lot, but they will not get up and actually go to war. So I would say that the possibilities are not very high, but nobody knows. But thank you. Grand Noise said, Muhammad promised Muslims they will be blessed if they follow the Quran, but the West has power and wealth. Israel exists and Muslims flee to us haram West. Well, even Muslims know that the West is better than Allah, so can't really blame them. Sid Dave said, black converts like Mo Ali, Malcolm X, Dave Chappelle have no clue of history about trans-Saharan slave trade, and they won't have much knowledge about it. People need to tell them, which is why we need channels like these, channels like David Wood's channel, channels like other channels to amplify, to tell people what people need to know. MP said, I was sleeping peacefully when suddenly my wife started to shout, why are you stuttering? Why are you stuttering?
Why stuttering? Why stuttering?
Man. The context makes it funny. You're sleeping and she says, why are you stuttering? That's basically what happened for those who missed it. Mohammed Hijab is on Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan goes quiet for a second and he's like, why are you stuttering? Sid Dave said, in Islam, Abraham came to Mecca, Mo went to Jerusalem, Alexander was a Muslim who found the place where the sun sets, idiotic stories made by Muhammad. Yeah. And the sun also goes and prostrates and prays to Allah and asks for permission to rise again, by the way. That all happens. It's all true. You just don't know because you're ignorant. Cascadia became a channel member. Welcome to the club. And also said, hey, hey, ho, ho, Pedo Mo has got to go. That's good. I should put that on my soundboard. Today, 40K Hamas fighters, 40K multiplies by 72 means 2.8 million Houris. Allah is going to be busy over the next year. I know Allah probably has a Houri factory up there, a virgin factory, where there is a constant production chain of virgins for the fighters. They just keep being produced. It's amazing. I can't imagine the labor that goes into that. Christian Gunnar 2001 said, the Bible says that Russia will invade Israel, but reluctantly. This is because Muslim accounts for 20% of the Russian population. But Putin is very popular with Russia's Jews. I doubt that the Bible says that Russia will invade Israel. So it's probably not. But sure, yeah. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, so one thing to point out is that actually Putin has said many times over the decades that he loves Israel, that Israel is part of Russia, that Israel is like an extension of Russia, that he will not let anyone harm Israel, and stuff like that. So, which is also why I'm saying that there is the likelihood of Russia going to war against Israel is very low. Very, very low. But of course, over the last years, things changed a lot. Nobody knows. So Dave said, most of Allah's Houris are trans, so not going to be great. You never know. There was a speech by Andrew Tate. He said, wait, what was that? He was like Hulk Hogan or Megan Fox. If a woman looks like Hulk Hogan and a trans looks like Megan Fox, which one would you have sex with? And he was saying, I'm intelligent. I thought this through. And of course, I would pick Megan Fox or something like that. It was like it was such a stupid speech. And he was actually referring to himself as very intelligent because he thought that through. Andrew Tate. What a complete idiot. And finally, and I'm going to leave after this one because I'm dying. Ali Aloha said Michigan Attorney General and friend of Tlaib, Diana Nessel, posted on X denouncing her post statement. And friend of Tlaib, Diana Nessel. Really? I need to see. Dana Nessel. Let's see. Let's see. I want to see what happened. I want to see what happened. Dana. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. Dana Nessel said, Rashida Tlaib, I have supported and defended you countless times, even when you have said the indefensible, because I believed you to be a good person whose heart was in the right place. But this is so hurtful to so many. Please retract this cruel and hateful remark. Wow. And the context here is, so Rashida Tlaib says, from the river to the sea is an aspirational call for freedom, human rights, and peaceful coexistence. Shut up. Not death, destruction, or hate. My work and advocacy is always centered in justice and dignity for all people, no matter faith or ethnicity. Shut the hell up. This is like, wow, 29,000 likes, 30,000 comments. Okay. This is basically like saying gas the Jews is actually all about having fun together and being at peace. Non-Americans might not much know, but Rashida Tlaib is an American congresswoman. Yes. This is so stupid. It's such a twisting, such revisionism of very clear history. Senator Jeremy Moss said, this is not how Jews view the phrase from the river to the sea. This is not how Hamas views the phrase from the river to the sea. Hamas uses it as a rallying cry And they don't simply want to displace Jews in Israel, they want Jews dead. This is completely accurate. Completely accurate. To which then Dan Nelson said, I have supported and defended you countless times, Rashida, even when you said the indefensible, but this is extremely hurtful. Retract this hateful remark. But hey, why would you expect Rashida to retract this? Rashida is a hateful person who will justify anything the Palestinian side does, because that's what she is. That's what she stands for. So let's see. From the river to the sea. Oh, look, there's even a Wikipedia article about this. Look at this. There's even a Wikipedia article about this. I'm sure it will say something like, this is an aspirational call for freedom and equality, despite some misunderstandings. Let's see. من نهر إلى البحر is a political slogan associated with Palestinian nationalism. The slogan refers geographically to the area between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, which includes the State of Israel and Palestinian territories, the West Bank, including East Jerusalem and Gaza Strip. The slogan has been employed by political groups since the 1960s to advocate for Palestinian liberation, with origins in the Palestinian National Council, which demanded a Palestinian state encompassing all of historic Palestine. All of historic Palestine. All of historic Palestine. All of it. All of it. Here. All of it. All of it means getting rid of Israel. Is there a history which they included? Palestinian Jihad, Hamas, vowed to destroy Israel. Originally a political slogan, it has been in use since the 1960s by the PLO as a main goal of the movement. The phrase carried official weight within the PLO until the 1988 Algiers Declaration, after which the objective shifted to establishing a Palestinian state with the 1967 borders. Yeah, so after this, it switches to a two-state solution by the PLO. Before that, this phrase was used by them, which meant all of the land should be Palestine. There should be no Israel. That same year saw the founding of Hamas, who integrated the slogan into its official platform, which, in contrast with the PLO's then recent tacit acceptance of UN Resolution 242, called for the obliteration of the State of Israel and the killing of all its Jewish citizens. With 4 citations here, credible ones. And this is basic history. Everybody knows that this here is a complete lie. What a scumbag. I'm glad some people are seeing it. Finally, I'm going to leave after this one. Notice that the closest a free Palestine that has all the land would be is loading up Hearts of Empire 4. Thanks for talking about the games again now. And liberating that way. Outside of that, they have it in their dreams, like Muhammad being prophet only in his mind. Yeah, only in their mind. Yes, absolutely. I would say. Maybe the only thing that is actually a proper free Palestine is an Israeli state that encompasses all of it, where people can then live freely and have equal rights. Because if we had it the other way, if the Palestinians took all over and turned all of it into Palestine, we know what would happen next. The very genocide that people complain about so much. Yeah. See? From the river to the sea means all of it would be Palestine. All of it. Yeah. Just like Allah says all non-Muslims are bad. And just like Yasser Qadhi says all Jews are monsters. Terrible people. Terrible people.
You're sick. You're sick.
All right. With that said, I'm out of here. I will see you again in another live stream. Actually, tomorrow I'm not supposed to be live tomorrow with David Wood because he's traveling, but tomorrow I will be live, possibly on this channel, because I'm going to have a discussion panel with several people, several other YouTubers and online people, on hosted by the Twitch and YouTube streamer Stardust. She will be hosting, and she invited me to have a discussion with these other people on the whole Israel-Palestine conflict. Yeah, I'm on a debate panel tomorrow. So tomorrow I will be back, and we will be here once again. Until then, have a fantastic day. And as always, stay away from Islam.